Manuel Ellis's killing in Tacoma police custody is one of about 30 use of force cases that happened this year in Washington. But in this state, law enforcement is under no obligation to track or report it.
I suspect almost all Washingtonians would be very surprised to learn that when there's a use of deadly force by law enforcement, they do not have to report that anywhere. They don't have to make it transparent.
As a result, only 10% of agencies in Washington report those cases. In a report released yesterday, State Attorney General Bob Ferguson recommended that it be mandatory to report information about incidents involving deadly force, and that the information be put in one place and be subject to state-level auditing of deadly force data. On use of deadly force, do your recommendations go far enough in ensuring that law enforcement agencies are transparent?
What I would say is I think this is an important first step, and I think a relatively easy first step.
But similar legislation has repeatedly stalled in recent years. Ferguson hopes this time will be different.
Now is pick up the newspaper, turn on the news. It's in front of everybody right now, and I believe there's a greater awareness of the public and from elected officials that we need to have this transparency.
Cases like Ellis's have forced conversations about police accountability, but Ferguson says even now he's undecided on whether the state should form an independent body to investigate law enforcement misconduct.
Now, if you're going to do it that way, that entity needs an awful lot of resources to make that happen. That's no small body of work, because right now that's spread out amongst many law enforcement agencies. So I'm open to changes and have an open mind about it, but it'll take a significant investment.
Ferguson says a range of reforms will be needed, but for now, his focus is on taking this first step. In Seattle, Kristen Ayers, King 5 News.